Welcome back to The Right Ingredients. I'm Charlie Packwood, and today I'm joined by someone who has spent his entire career shaping, creating, and protecting the craft of flavour creation. Andrea Albertino is a senior flavourist, having worked with some highly respected flavour houses during his career. And through his leadership with the British Society of Flavourists, he's had a front row seat to how this profession is ever changing, culturally, creatively, and commercially. Andrea, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you for the opportunity. It's a great, great honor for me to spend this time talking to you. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Brilliant. Let's get straight into it. A lot of people listening will work in the ingredients world, but even then, I find many don't really understand what a flavorist does day to day. So I think what would be best is let's start right at the beginning. How would you describe the craft of being a flavorist to someone who's never worked in this space?
This is challenging because, as you said, even though there are a lot of food technologies in this planet, most of the time as a flavorist, you have to introduce yourself, especially when you are working with customer, you have to introduce yourself and tell them what you are doing, because even if you are in the industry, people don't really appreciate what a flavorist does. And I mean, it's cool because you can play around a little bit. You can make it even more interesting than what it is actually, because it is interesting, but especially when you start telling them what is your job, they're really like fascinated. And for me, a comparison that I like to do is flavorists are a bit like artists or pianists, depending, because they use a lot of ingredients, a lot of colors, a lot of notes. And if you see or hear the single component, this is kind of irrelevant. But when you step back and you see the whole picture, you listen to the whole piece, or you appreciate the whole piece of art, that's pretty much what we are doing. We have so many ingredients that there can be very similar to each other, can be very different, can be, described in different ways. But when you put them together, it's literally when you create some art, And of course, yeah, perfumers are doing something similar. Sometimes they are probably more appreciated than flavorists. They are more known. Maybe it's a bit more, people think that perfumers are more interesting than flavorists, but I like the fact that we work a little bit more in the shade, and yeah, people don't know what we are doing, and I like that.
That's a great way of putting it. I've been told before that perfumers, flavorists are very much like artists. However, I think that I prefer your way of putting it. Yes, I think perfumers are more artists because of what they're creating it's how it's perceived a lot of the time in terms of fragrances. One fragrance can be loved by many, hated by a few. When it comes to flavors, I like the way that you put it of pianists, because a pianist will put something together. If you hear one note, it just sounds quite simple, but an array of notes put together, that is what flavor creation is. So I really like that way that a flavorist is a pianist.
Even though sometimes there are songs that you can probably recognize after 1 second, and maybe that's the same for flavors. Maybe there are some flavors that are so well known around the planet that as soon as you have like a quick whiff, you say, okay, I know this is that product. Could be Nutella, Coca-Cola, even though we know that Coca-Cola is not the same all around the world. But anyway, it can be recognizable even if you play one note. But yeah, most of the time you have to use all these notes in the right way and proportion.
For sure. And when you look back to the early part of your own career, what was the steepest learning curve for you personally?
So I finished my PhD in chemistry, and probably the fact that you learn a lot of things in the university, but you don't learn about flavors. So you have no idea, at least me, the first time I stepped into the flavor lab, it was like, what the hell is that? Like all these little bottles with different chemicals that you are aware of, but I didn't have a clue that they were actually smelling something. They were like components for creating a flavor, for creating a smell, for creating a taste experience. So for me was like kind of reset, because I had, a decent knowledge of, chemistry, organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, reaction, all these things. But then you actually have to reset and start from the beginning. There are only maybe 2-3 opportunities around the world where you can learn about flavors, either talking about the Zipka in France or the Reading course at the University of Reading. I said Reading course, the flavor course, the flavor course in the University of Reading, but not that many. So what you study at the university, it's not as relevant as probably in other industries. So that's why you start over again and you challenge yourself in a different way. So it was like, steep learning curve, but challenging, fascinating. So the fact that you learn every day something different, because we have so many raw materials, you keep learning, and I will always learn something every day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I guess that leads to the next piece quite nicely. The job, of course, isn't for everyone. What kind of person tends to really thrive in this line of work?
You have to be curious. You have to be passionate. You need passion for what you are doing. And you have to be patient, because it's not something that you can learn from one day to another. It's something that needs time, months and years, where you can really say, okay, I can manage a single project by myself. I can create a strawberry flavor by myself. So that's why I think, especially for new generations, I think they have to step back a little bit. I think now everyone want to rush into maybe a title, maybe a senior position, maybe, getting more money. But for flavorists, you really need time, especially on the job. Like, every day is different. Every day could be some troubleshooting in production, can be customer coming. So mainly a lot of patience for me is the main thing. And then, of course,
Interesting.
passion is very important. You have to
Mm-hmm.
read a lot. For me, it's important that's very much connected with the British Society of Flavourists. The fact that I like what I'm doing, I like coming back home and maybe read an article, listen to a webinar, get connected with the rest of the flavorist world.
So something I'm seeing from a hiring perspective from my side of the desk is that the industry often struggles to tell that story, all that you have previously spoken about well. So do you think companies are doing enough to showcase the career path and attract younger talent into this world, into this profession?
I think this is pretty much hidden. Mainly, maybe because it's not easy to become a good flavorist. Therefore, there is not that much advertising around, because companies tend to, or if possible, tend to, to keep the good talents for themselves. So that's why, uh, could they do more?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, maybe, but I think there is a little bit of, trying to stick to the talents that the companies have without losing them, I would say. And of course, attracting younger
Uh-huh.
talents is a great thing, but it's not easy. It's not easy.
No. No, for sure. What you just said there, I think that leads quite nicely onto the next thing that I was going to speak about. And it's something that I see every week in my own work. I'm seeing it a lot more recently, that more and more experienced flavorists are really rethinking where they want to work. Some are leaving the big global players, some are choosing smaller independent houses, others are stepping into startups or even consultancy style roles. It feels like priorities across the profession are shifting slightly. From your perspective, what's driving that?
So look, talking about myself, I did that jump around 8 years ago. So moving from a global flavor and ingredient company, to
Uh-huh.
a more local and middle-sized flavor company. I think there are two things that you can take into account. One is, when you work for a big guy, then you are one of, many. So when you work for a middle-sized flavor company, you count more in the total. This is statistic, there are less
Mhm.
employees, and what you do is more under the spotlight. So you are probably more rewarded. You have more control of what the company is doing. So you see, most of the time you see your product on the shelf. So that's really the reward of your work, where, if you're in the big company, sometimes you really lose track of what the big company is doing on the market, and is this your product, where is your product going eventually. So that would be one thing. And the second one is probably like looking for more flexibility. This is not necessarily related to a small flavor company. It's more related to someone who wants to either going solo or consulting or opening a startup. I think there is more needs for the person to find his space, maybe family time, having more flexibility, not getting, stick to the 9 to 5, let's say, timetable. And that probably gives more possibility for the person to enjoy life. I say
Yep.
maybe because, I'm not a consultant. I'm not planning to become a consultant, but this is probably the way I see it. I can only say from my side, yeah, from big to small, you probably count more than what you would be in a big one.
I think that's why a lot of companies are looking to train more junior flavorists to make sure that they are plugging a hole that seems to be moving in that direction for more of the senior flavorists who I feel, from my perspective, are looking for more creative freedom. They're looking for identity, autonomy, culture, all of these things packaged together, which can sometimes be more accessible for them in smaller, medium-sized flavor house than it can be in the big five, the big multinational global companies. Do you agree?
Look, you have more space for creativity. You are probably most of the time not really 100% stuck to the business plan of the big company. Maybe you can cut off a little bit more time on the bench for, let's say, playing. Playing meaning, oh, I want to create something that I haven't tried before. You can try some new ideas, maybe. I've been to this place, I've been to this restaurant, I've been to this country, and I've seen this flavor. Why don't you try to recreate it? Something that most likely in the big company, this is just not possible, because either you go with the portfolio or you work with uh, big customers for tailor-made products. So that's why, yeah, I agree with the fact that it gives you a little bit more creativity, more possibilities for flavor creation. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want, but maybe you have, a small percentage of your time that you can spend in a, say, more funny way.
More creative freedom, more of an ability to explore. And I think that's something that is super important, that curiosity within the art of flavor creation that you mentioned earlier on in the conversation.
It's also about having new raw materials, for example. So it's very difficult to introduce new raw materials in a big flavor company because of the supply chain and
Hmm.
stock and price and raw material sourcing. So you have to, most of the time, you have to stick to what you have unless it's something super, super important. Whereas you might be more flexible in a small company. You can explore a little bit more. Could be new ingredients, could be new chemicals, could be new extracts, because you have seen something during a fair or you heard this in a webinar. Why don't you try this? Where, yeah, this gives you a little bit more tools to play with.
Interesting. Okay. Tricky question, this one. I mean, when you compare large organizations with smaller flavor houses, what difference do you see in how they attract or manage talent?
I think one could be, yeah, maybe money, maybe.
Hmm.
Maybe, as you said, offering more flexibility, more rewards for the person. So as I said before, being smaller, less employees, you can really get into your success a little bit more like personal rewarding than in a big one. But at the same time, and I think this is positive because it depends, person can feel the pressure as negative, but I feel pressure as something positive. You are more on the spotlight. So if something happens, positive or negative, you are the person that you are asked for something. And this is something that I like, even if it's negative. Okay. So that was your project. It went badly. Now it's your responsibility to turn it around. So for me, this is, as I said, could be seen negatively by someone, but for me, this is also another positive thing. So they put more pressure, but putting more pressure for me is a positive thing. In a big company, the fact that you are less, maybe you can even hide a little bit more if something happens. Okay, yeah, there are many flavors. It was not my fault, but in a small one, that's you. So you are facing the problem. You are facing the negative, turnout of a project, and you have to turn it around for the next time. So, but I think this is a positive point.
I speak to flavorists all the time about opportunities, about future development, whatever it may be. I'm speaking to a lot of different individuals. What I'm seeing from a lot of my conversations with flavorists, and I'm not talking about senior flavorists or trainee juniors, I'm talking about flavorists with maybe sort of 5 to 6 years, maybe slightly more experience, what their career aspirations are for their next step in their career. And most of the time I'm hearing, I want to take on a role where I have a little bit more autonomy to train, mentor other flavorists that are coming through the business. And that's something that you don't normally hear within other professions within specialty ingredients. Yes, you will have sales directors that say they want direct reports, but the people that are saying they want to take on these roles, they don't want the direct reports in terms of managing people on a day-to-day basis, but they want to train, they want to mentor, they want to pass on their knowledge to the new generation of flavorists that are coming through. So do you think flavorists today are more motivated by the chance to actually make an lasting impact rather than the big size and prestige of working for a big company, the IFFs, the Givaudan's, the DSM Firmenich of the world?
I think I kind of agree. I kind of agree what we are saying. I think mentoring is something difficult because it's not easy. It's not easy to pass the knowledge to somebody else. First of all, in order to pass knowledge to someone, you have to control. You have to know what you are teaching. Okay, it's not only about like reading something and repeat it to somebody else. The best mentor is a person that is able to pass the information, but is able to control this information, to have full control of what he's saying. And for me, this is something that I like it, because especially so flavor companies are very secretive, so you can't tell other companies what you are doing. Therefore, the knowledge is most of the time is internal knowledge, apart from what is published, scientific reports or articles or books. But the knowledge is mainly internal. Therefore, if you're not able to pass the information to someone else, this information will be lost in time. There is no point of retiring and keeping everything for yourself, because what you're going to do with that. I think it's quite a joy to spread the knowledge, to spread the information in order to see your like junior flavorist or flavorist trainees in future to succeed, to become like really knowledgeable and successful. So for me, there is a component of joy in what you are doing. And when you are in a small company, you have more like one-to-one time with your juniors or with your seniors, depending where you are at the moment. Whereas maybe in the big companies, they have some internal flavor training, but it's probably not as like this human touch as probably you can build up in a small company. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed it.
One thing hiring managers tell me all the time is how difficult it is to both find and keep experienced, strong flavorists. It's one of the hardest roles to recruit for globally.
Mhm.
From your experience, what keeps flavorists truly loyal to a business?
I mean, I think for me, there is a component of statistic. There are not many flavorists around the world,
Nope.
same as
Hmm.
perfumers. So, and if you want somebody who is good and knowledgeable, maybe has already like a family, maybe has already like place where is living like a life. So statistically, that's why it's difficult to find a good one. I think most of the
Hmm.
time it's all about numbers. You start from a number which is already quite small, and then you narrow down to a number which is even smaller. That makes it for me difficult. I don't think like flavorists are specifically more loyal than someone else, because from my side, I mean, I would love to, for example, spend a year in this company, a year in the other company, and learn different things, because, you know, everyone has his own secret and business. So it would be absolutely amazing, but it's just not possible, you know, from a life perspective. You know, at least this is my point of view. Maybe there are other flavors where say, okay, I can move my family every year. I don't care. I just jump from this place to another. But I think if you want to have like a bit of stability in your life, it's good to stick around for a little while, and then that's why I find it like difficult to jump on another opportunity.
And flipping that on its head, what do you think companies could do better to create an environment where creative, technical people can truly thrive?
I think give them the freedom, but the freedom means trustability.
Hmm.
So for me, employees should have the trustability. So if I were, you know, CEO or owner of a company, I would definitely say my employees should be free, and I should trust them 100%. And doesn't mean that they have to do whatever they want, but they have to choose the timing and choose the way of working that suit them best. So for me, trustability and freedom, and that for me like a result of the possible like success of the company. If a person feels like the company trusts them, and they're not putting time pressure, they're not, you know, micromanaging, I think that's an environment where a single flavorist or food technologist can thrive quite a lot.
Traditionally, flavor creation followed a long apprenticeship, almost an old school craft learning model. But the world moves fast now and expectations have changed. How do you think companies should approach training and developing the next generation of flavorists today?
Yeah, I think now, for me, as I said at the beginning, flavorists should be patient. Okay, you need time. You can't learn about 2,000 raw materials in 1 month, not even in 1 year. So every
Hmm.
flavor should be patient anyway. Now I think we are facing more things, and doesn't mean that they are difficulties. It's just like we are dealing with neuroscience, we are dealing with artificial intelligence, we are dealing with market research. So I think it should not only be related to what like cystriexanol smells like, but it should be related more in terms of neuroscience, personal experience, plus flavor modulation. So there are more things that a flavorist should learn now compared to probably 30, 40 years ago.
Hmm.
And on top of that, they need even more patience than before. It takes more time because, of course, these are all information that you can even get on the internet or ChatGPT, whatever. But there are many more, and on top of that, you have to learn about the raw materials, about your extract that you'll be using. For me, even more patient than before, covering more topics than before.
Hmm.
We we are also more versatile. We are talking about milk alternatives, meat alternatives, application that did not exist maybe 20, 30 years ago. So the same flavor can be applicable to multiple final applications with multiple challenges. So what is this flavor doing if it's in present with protein instead of carbohydrates? And what happens if the same flavor will be in a base where sugar is reduced or eliminated and you are adding, I don't know, starch, or you're reducing fat? So you're really like widening the opportunities in the final products massively. And it takes even more time, in my opinion, at least for me.
What about for anyone listening who wants to get into flavor creation? Maybe they're a young scientist, just graduated with a degree in chemistry. Maybe they're in QA or applications. What advice would you specifically give to someone who wants to break into this industry but doesn't really know where to start?
Yeah, I've been asked this question many times. So
I'm
many
sure.
people on LinkedIn approaching saying, I would like to become a flavorist. What can I do? Where shall I study? And it's difficult to answer. For me, the thing is to get into a flavor industry is for me difficult step.
Mhm.
Most of the time, I mean, as I said, flavor industries are not really known around the world. They were just like
Mhm.
on the back label, and people don't know about Givaudan, IFF, Firmenich unless you are in this world. Okay, if you are on the street and ask about this company, I said, what are they? I have no clue. I know Coca-Cola, I know Unilever, maybe. So for me, the difficult step is to get into the flavor industry. And I honestly think that if you have the passion and the interest of becoming one of the flavorists, I think you can get there. The step is open the door to one of the, could be a big one, could be a small one. And once you are there, I think start talking to the flavorists, start talking to the application technologies if you are in analytic, and try to, to make your space. Sometimes, I mean, flavorists are expensive.
Mhm.
You can't create a flavorist position just, out of the blue, because that's not gonna be cheap in the company. This is for sure. Probably better than myself. Therefore, you have to jump on the opportunity as soon as you get it. But yeah, for me, try to get into whatever is the flavor company, and once you're there, try to jump on the first opportunity. Maybe to start like compounding. I spent the first 2 years, even though I had a PhD in chemistry, pretty much like compounding for, let's say, encapsulated flavors, fluid beds, dry drying, and yeah, that was it. And then I got the opportunity of becoming a flavorist after 3-4 years without even wanting to become a flavorist. I said, I mean, I kind of like what I'm doing, flavor delivering is fun. But then I got the opportunity, and yeah, I jumped on it. I was quite fortunate, I think, thinking backwards. At the time, I said, no, I like what I'm doing, but yeah. Sometimes it's just like matter of luck. As I said, I landed in a flavor company without knowing that flavor companies exist at the time. So yeah.
From when you started, I mean, the industry has changed massively. I'm seeing and hearing a lot from different individuals that within the art of flavor creation, there's more cross-functional work, remote collaboration, faster timelines, and an entirely different pace of innovation. How has all of that changed the day-to-day life of a flavorist from your perspective in terms of what you've seen?
There is more time for admin, there is more time for meetings, there is more time for remote, let's say, support to customers. There is more maybe delegating. So compounders, you are
Uh-huh.
not, at least in my case, you are not compounding your own flavors. So you spend more time far from the bench. And I think this is kind of negative thing. So you should always find a little bit of time every day, every week to spend on the bench. Otherwise, I don't think you can stick to being a good flavorist if you just spend time formulating on the computer or having meeting with customers. You're probably like, a good scientist somehow, or a good marketer, or a good selling person, but I think it's important to stick to the bench as much as possible, which is probably maybe 30 minutes a day sometimes, or even less. But you should always try to smell away something and compare what maybe, okay, I used this raw material, but I can't really remember what it smells like in comparison to another one. So for me, always try to cut off some time for yourself as a proper flavorist, okay? And then, I mean, of course, the business asks you to have meetings with customer, maybe to travel to a customer or hosting a customer, and yeah, building your own story and telling them what you're doing. But this is, should be not 100% of your time, at least what I
Hmm.
think.
And with all the things pulling a flavorist away from the bench, what effect do you think that has on creativity and especially job satisfaction for an innately creative person?
No, I mean, I think at the end of the day, even if it's not yourself compounding the flavor and having worked 100% of the time on this flavor, it's still like teamwork. So whenever you see the company succeeding and going out of the market with a flavor that you have actively worked on, I'm still happy. I mean, it probably was okay. It's not my flavor, but it's our flavor. Therefore, makes me quite happy anyway. This is what I see. I think it's important to see the flavor is more like a person who is helping the team, other than being okay. This is only my flavor. That's my creation. Okay, that's your creation, but every flavor has a history behind of maybe analytical work, compounding work, marketing work, sales work, and promotion. So important to stick to your team and being humble to say, okay, I probably did this formulation, but it has been like a good teamwork overall.
Hmm.
That's made me quite happy anyway.
And looking ahead, the world is changing quickly. Sustainability, natural ingredients, label transparency, new consumer demands. Everything is constantly moving. It's constantly shifting. How do you see the role of the flavorist evolving over the next few years?
I mean, my feeling is will probably, but this is only my point of view, go back to artificial flavors more than 100% natural, or we'll probably like have a two levels. So from one side you have the top premium products that are, let's say, natural flavors or extracts, but I have the feeling that we'll go back to artificial more and more because it's still more sustainable than natural. So artificial flavors chemically are the same as natural flavors, most of the time are more sustainable, are cheaper, more available. So I'll probably see that in time, most of the company will say, okay, I think we should go, it's not really go back, but to go artificial again. That again, it's not a bad thing. It's simply like a shift of the industry because 100% natural is not 100% sustainable, okay? Even though they want you to think about in this direction, but that's not.
Do you think consumers would accept that?
Most of the time, in most countries, they do, or many countries are still sticking to artificial. And maybe you see like, a different shift in the countries where now is artificial is predominant. Maybe we'll have a wave of natural, and maybe Western countries that already had the natural wave will go to artificial again. But it's all about like telling the final consumer what you are having. If you read artificial flavors, it's just like educating, say, okay, look, you used to have natural flavors, but that's the same for you. That this is not like bringing something bad.
Hmm.
So for me, education, yeah, it's difficult. Okay, this
Of
is
course,
this
yeah.
is 100. That's not easy, but I think they should because I mean you'll see product that they're getting more and more and more expensive. So that influences the choice of the final consumer somehow.
And you started at the start of this podcast speaking about what skills there are to make or what's best for a flavorist to have: curiosity, patience, things like this. What
Hmm.
skills or mindsets do you think will be most valuable going forward?
Flexibility, I think, and again, even more curiosity because you will be exploring more and more applications. So more and more end-use product, so fantasy as well. Now the consumers are looking for flavor combinations that maybe didn't exist before. So for me, yeah, even more curiosity and fantasy, let's say, even more creativity, not in the way you build up your flavor, but in the way you combine the flavors in the final product, let's say, in different applications. So not only the combinations of flavor, but the combination of specific flavors in new application. Could be protein drinks, it could be isotonic beverages, or who knows what.
Do you think that it's still beneficial for flavorists to take that route to go from cross-category to a specific area? Or is it better for flavorists, especially with so many different things out there at the moment, to stay cross-category and try and hone as much knowledge as they can across a wide range of categories rather than focusing on one singular category?
In my opinion, 100% the second option. To know as much as you can and to be as more flexible as possible, because you don't know what will be your next trend about. In my personal experience, I don't have a savory background because I never been in a savory business unit, or so this is something that it's lacking for me, and I would love to learn more. But I would rather suggest to not to stick to one. Okay, I'm a citrus expert, cool, but I would try to learn as much as I can. If I could, I would love to learn more about savory because I haven't done it before. It doesn't mean that you dilute your knowledge, but you explore more.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Andrea, this has been a brilliant, truly fascinating conversation, and it's rare to get such an honest look at the craft, the culture, and the career side of flavor creation all in one discussion. So, from my side, thank you so much for joining me, and thanks to everyone listening. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please follow The Right Ingredients for more conversations with the people shaping the specialty ingredients world. Once again, thank you so much for your time. And until next time, thank you for listening to The Right Ingredients. Thank you.
Charlie, thank you so much. I appreciate it a lot. Cheers.
Pleasure. Thank you, Andrea.